Grace here, and I want to talk about album covers, particularly album covers that may make you feel a little uneasy. I've seen some people suggest that the Yeah Yeah Yeahs mosquito cover from a couple years ago is one of the most horrendous things to ever grace the music scene and vinyl shelves. I, however, do not have as much disgust for the album cover. It feels in line with that classic Yeah Yeah Yeahs from the 90s with a little bit of tune that I grew up listening before they became the synth rock. To me, I see them playing on a theme that goes along with an image that they have long held. I do not have a phase of this band that I dislike. That album cover just makes people feel weird, and that may place some negative feelings on the album itself. So in this video, I would like to rank to show off out of my vinyl collection best and worst album covers that I own. Not in a particular order, but these are just kind of the top 5 that make me either cringe or gush with love when I grab them off of my vinyl shelf.
Okay, good for you.
Some album artwork creates a whole genre of other artwork to follow. And one of my favorite trends in album artwork, the Midwest Emo Liminal Space album cover. This is an album cover that is usually a photograph, low res, digital or analog photograph from a member of the band's past, something that represents a truth within the album, but also mainly just sets a vibe. And nothing sets more of a vibe than the iconic American football, oddly formatted album cover. That house that feels like my house, it feels like your house. It seems like a non-threatening space, but also a space that you're not easy in. I love for this special edition, this re-release, that they didn't change the album artwork. They didn't change what this album represents, because the mood of it just gives you the feeling like you're gonna hear something impactful and mindful, but also is something oddly familiar. And I would say that this house may not be the first representation in album cover history to feature such an iconic, mundane image, but this definitely is the one that comes to mind when I'm thinking about a cover that really stands out to me with very, very little effort.
Who opened a window?
Iconic in the wrong way, pulling a very striking image, I would say probably the 1997 Blink-182 offering Dude Ranch, with its iconic bowl and its big ass balls and a Blink-182 logo that not a single person has ever used. This album is titled Dude Ranch, which would imply like a working boys on the ranch, and they're like, they need a place to stay, a bath, a warm meal, and what we get are these 3 jackasses trying to do like a mock greeting card for like Wyoming or the Wild West. It's obvious that they just sort of dressed up in a cowboy themed area and took several pictures that would be funny for an album cover, and I do appreciate that it's all thematic within itself, giving you an idea that these boys are kind of goofy, but they're here to entertain you. There's like a sense of irony with all the songs being in lowercase, with songs titled emo and dick lips and damn it and voyeur. There's such a simplistic juvenile nature to this that perfectly captures the album itself. I just don't like that there's 2 fat balls on the front of my Blink-182 album.
Okay, good for you.
I personally really enjoy when a band adds their own artwork, especially if that artwork has kind of a fun satirical nature to it. Chris Farron is a funny guy. He has a stage persona of someone that is overly confident in their musical abilities, playing actually mildly insecure, really sweet songs about the human experience. His offering in Born Hot represents a new turning of the persona, overconfidence, David Bowie-esque character that would put on grand light shows as he played and entertained the audience. I really appreciate this self-portrait of the man. There's an insecurity that he is adding to this layer of irony that is going with this character that's supposed to be overly confident. He is capturing this classic sense of masculinity with a heavy dose of irony, and I think his art style just perfectly goes along with it.
Who opened a window?
Controversially, I think that sometimes it may also have the opposite effect, where you're trying to portray a deep sense of childhood and something missing and almost a simplistic distortion of these emotions that are so difficult to speak of. Don't get me wrong, this EP, each song is a new folding layer of the psyche of these gentlemen. They represent new foldings of trying to get over trauma, trying to figure out what's important to you, trying to find something that's true in this world. Unfortunately, I just feel like the dudes themselves can represent that better in this fun, goofy photograph than the crayon drawing that they went with. There's something about it that does feel like I am buying a CD for a child, and I don't know how to comprehend that. And even more controversially, I don't really like the cover to Sports. I don't know if this is Chloe. I don't know if there's a narrative playing out with it. I just personally have always felt weird about the cover. Legendary fucking album, don't get me wrong. It just makes me feel weird. It's our version of the Nirvana Baby Dick.
Okay, good for you.
Another aspect of artwork can be beneficial when it comes to a mood piece that's also an iconic piece of art. There's no reason that this album cover should be so important to what I consider the images of punk rock. They're equating the emotion of being in a crowd, of being together, as the feeling of group sets. Like we're all experiencing exterior social thing that means more, that has intimacy to it. And it's also a little bit dangerous. Similarly, in 2020, Jeff Rosenstock did an incredible job of also capturing a color palette, a mood, and a vibe that was just pervasive in the culture at the time. We have these beautiful tie-dye colors, a retro, almost 8-bit font around the title, with the American suburban home just melting in the hot, hot heat. Just when I think this cover couldn't get any better, he went and scawed it up, adding checkerboard and slam dancing on top of the melting house, showing that the world may be tearing itself apart, we may be decaying, but we're still dancing, baby. As long as we have the music, we have a place to go. That was Tim Armstrong. I obviously prefer the ska. Together, though, I think they speak to one another, and they both have a lot of commentary on what the other piece is saying, leaving them to be as iconic and as essential to my punk psyche as the Circle Jerks themselves.
Who opened a window?
Where I think that can go wrong, maybe you try too hard. This album cover comes from a band that I no longer really try to support. So let's leave that aside so we can come back and talk about what's at hand. And what's at hand is another off-putting album cover. I get that they are trying to represent a carefree, whatever attitude similar to the Ska Dream cover by Death Rosenstock. Here is trying to be a radical, tuneful, we're taking bruises, we lost our pinky, but we can still hang loose. We're doing things that are dangerous for us. While the colors and the simplicity of it do speak to something that I enjoy. The seafoam green does give it kind of this fun vibe. I can't help but feel like this is definitely a weird departure from their other album covers, and genuinely when I started to not enjoy this band on any level whatsoever.
Okay, good for you.
Now, when it comes to capturing a mood, y'all know I'm gonna talk about my favorite band in the whole goddamn world. Now, Every Time I Die has some iconic album covers, from the violent cop revolt in Ets Lives, psychedelic rainbow metalcore of From Parts Unknown, simplistic yet haunting emotions of Low Teens with that font that feels like it's just oozing into your eyeballs. But none of these covers gives me chills of what aggressiveness and horror may be pertaining inside, quite like The Big Dirty. Came out when I was in high school and hit me in every single part of my brain that needed to be stimulated with a southern slathered heaviness that cut right down to the fabric of every dirty, aggressive thought that we hold within ourselves. The big dirty that lives inside all of us on an album that does not let up for a single second. The beginning of my infatuation with one of my favorite bands to ever exist.
Who opened a window?
Sometimes a band doesn't really know how to represent themselves. Sometimes a band just kind of puts stuff out there. And while I have so much love for Mom Jeans and the record that they produce after this, that maybe features a more questionable cover with their buttocks on it, but has more of a thematic tone to it that represents the album underneath, much better than this blurry MySpace photo and an even worse wide Polaroid underneath it that just shows, hey, we sort of just made this album on the fly. We know you guys like that first one a whole lot, and that first one's like iconic and stuff, but look how much fun we're having. We're making music over here. We're getting to go on tour, guys. Pickle Bart, isn't that pretty funny? There's something about being too low effort that maybe takes away from something that I enjoy in a project, but it does feel appropriate for who this band is. I just wish the album covers had a little more iconography to them.
Okay, good for you.
And our final up, best album covers in my collection, or maybe my favorite, maybe not this one. This one could possibly land in the so off-putting, I do not enjoy it category. But the album that precedes this, Cosmic Thrill Seekers, absolutely deserves a place here. Not only being a burst of color with an album title that makes you want to inquire as to what it holds within, but it is an album cover that contains so much more. One that utilizes the disc folds inside to bring color out of the cover itself. Also giving you a slight chance to customize, since you could choose technically from 4 different sides to go behind the cover of Cosmic Thrill Seekers. Best part of all that they include a poster with all the artwork together, and I know I'm not judging this based on inside goods. This being teased on the folds through the album cover and then being able to get to a poster that you unfold with all of it together just adds to a feeling of interactiveness and a feeling like you are the thrill seeker yourself. Also, this just being one of the greatest concept, emo, pop punk, whatever you want to call it, albums ever made, just makes this entire experience so much more fun, creative, and just like on the money of what this music represents to me.
Who opened a window?
And here we are, my favorite album that I own with the worst cover that it contains. This is fucking legendary. It's Pet Sounds. I don't know what else to say. Pet Sounds brings so much incredible vocal harmonization, subtle ideas about life, death, the human experience that Brian Wilson is bringing to the subtleties, not just in the music, but his lyrics and his performance. If you haven't seen it, I do recommend Love and Mercy. Not only does it contain Paul Dano playing one of my favorite musical artists to ever exist, it's also a really good representation of just the fucking struggles this dude was going through while making some of the most influentially impactful music. It's just unfortunate that the studio and Brian's handlers did get nervous with how the album was coming across, with the seriousness and dourness that was being portrayed in Brian's lyrics, that they did try to spruce things up. They tried to interject just a little bit of life, a little bit of levity with the boys feeding goats. I don't know how to interpret the pet sounds. I just don't understand why they're feeding goats. I don't even know if Brian used any goats on the soundtrack itself. But hey, at least it's in stereo. And there we are. The best and worst vinyl album covers that I believe I own. Do you disagree? Do you agree with my picks? Comment below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll catch you on the flip side. Stay swazzy. Stay posy. Have a good one.